Speaking professionally requires clarity and confidence in order to succeed, no matter what line of work you are in. Communication always plays an important role to express your thoughts and ideas. In this English lesson, I'll teach you how to speak professionally with utmost clarity in speech. You'll learn how to replace filler words while speaking, why you shouldn't use complex words, how to cut out too much slang, choosing pivot phrases using active voice versus passive voice, and finally, how to adjust the pace of your speech. First, let's understand what are filler words. Sounds such as or using words such as like, do you know, are filler words in English. If you use these words too much while speaking, it can quickly become distracting for the listeners. Filler words also make you sound less professional and boring. So, how do you get rid of fillers in your communication? First, let's look at why you use fillers. When your mind is not able to search for words to support your chain of thoughts in a conversation, you tend to fill those gaps with filler words. The best way to get rid of fillers is to take brief pauses. Now, pausing isn't a bad thing at all. A small pause of 1 to 4 seconds will help you gather words and complete your chain of thought. I'm sure a pause is always better than making frog sounds, such as Try pressing your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Whenever you feel like using a filler word, you may have great vocabulary and know much more English words than an average English speaker, but showing that off unnecessarily will confuse your listeners. Shorter, simpler, and more common words are easier to understand than complex ones. You may be misunderstood by your listeners. Take a look at this sentence. When we commingle the ways in which these two antithetical groups utilize our mobile app, well, too many complex words that can easily confuse listeners instead of commingle. You could use, compare, weigh, or analyze. The meaning of these words is the same, but they're less complex. Instead of antithetical, you could use much simpler words such as different, diverse, or if you want to use a better word, you could use dissimilar. Now, that's a better and more advanced word, but not a complex one. Secondly, adjust your vocabulary to suit your audience. You can use technical vocabulary with people who understand the subject. Same applies to abbreviations. I have noted people use abbreviations or short forms that are uncommon to follow. Take a look at these acronyms. Can you guess what they mean? IIRC stands for, if I recall correctly. WDYM means. What do you mean? And OTTD means outfit of the day. I'm sure when you looked at them first, you kept wondering what they meant. Am I right? These short forms may be common at your workplace, hence they're also called insider phrases, but your listeners may get easily confused with them. The bottom line is to use more common acronyms that are easily understood, such as FYI, for your information, ASAP, as soon as possible, BTW, by the way. Now these are more common and universally followed acronyms. Although slang words and phrases make your English sound natural, but not all slang is acceptable everywhere. You might want to show how trendy you are. and may use some slang words and phrases that might sound unprofessional and offensive. Take a look at these slang words. They look quite tempting to use in a conversation, but they might offend someone. An airhead means a silly or a stupid person. Dag is used for an unfashionable or socially awkward person. Flake means an unreliable person. Don't you think these slang words might offend someone? It's best to avoid the use of slang vocabulary at the workplace and stick to the language that's socially acceptable. Keep your slang bank for friends, family, and for people you know quite well. What are pivot phrases? When we transition from one thought or a subject to the next one, we use transition phrases to start a sentence. It helps the listener identify. We have finished speaking on a particular point, and now we are moving to the next one. Choosing the right words while transitioning is important. You must avoid words such as, so anyways, okay, anyhow. The next point is, these words display a lack of enthusiasm, and it seems that you just want to finish talking. Instead, you could use, let's move on to. Another aspect to consider is, now, moving on to the important part. These phrases show a smooth transition between your points. The listener understands the flow of your speech well and doesn't feel lost. Always and always, make use of active voice in written and spoken communication. Why do I say so? It offers life to your communication and seems real and important, especially in a meeting or while delivering a speech. It makes you sound inspirational and persuasive. Take a close look at these two sentences. The project will be completed by us next month. We will complete the project next month. The first sentence is in the passive voice, and the latter is in the active voice. What do you think? Which one sounds more lively and shows willingness? Of course, the second one. It sounds like an assurance that the project will be completed on time. So, why do we have a passive voice in English? Well, it's the language of science and technology, and is mostly used in textbooks and universities. You'll also hear a lot of passive language on news channels. The English language is made up of rhythm, but most people speak flat, and that makes them sound emotionless and robotic. If you speak at the same pace, either too fast or too slow, it is hard to follow and understand your message. You must vary your pace while speaking somewhat similar to the notes in a song. For example, you might want to speak a bit more quickly if you are concluding or recapping content in your presentation. You might slow down a bit when you want to introduce an important point in a meeting. Pausing for a second helps lay emphasis on certain important words and draws the listener's attention. This technique is followed by most of the public speakers. In short, you need to adjust the speed of your delivery based on the content of your speech. That's all for today. I hope these tips and tricks helped you understand some key elements to speak with clarity and sound more professional. All these elements are features of the English language, and no English textbook will teach them. You'll only acquire the art of speaking effectively through hours of practice. Keep all these points in mind to be a better communicator. I will see you soon in the next lesson. Keep learning. Keep practicing.